All right, now we're live. All right. I thought I was live for a moment. Sorry, everybody. Starting about a minute late. All right, so we have a cool show today. We have the takeover of kingsnake.com. We're going to be introducing that guest shortly. First things first, let's give a big shout out to U.S. ARC, fighting for your right, my right, to own the reptiles, amphibians, and the exotics that we love to keep. They help fight and mitigate bad legislation that's imposed, that's threatens our not only our livelihood but also just our general interest in the hobby. So whether you're just keeping them as pets, U.S. ARC fights for your or my right, because there is animal right extremists that don't think we should even be allowed to own reptiles and amphibians. So please donate to U.S. ARC. They're at different shows. And next we have the Mesa Reptile Show. That's November 21st and 22nd. And then also we have the Reptile Super Show coming up, Pomona. And that's going to be the first or second week of January. I don't know. Look it up. You got to be there, though. That's a great show. And I can't find her banner, so I'm not going to click on it. Anyway, let's just get to it. Going to bring on Dave on the stage. And then we have our awesome guest here, John Poff. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yep. Yes, sir. John Poff.
Okay, and so John, we're gonna get right into it. Dave wanted you to bring you as a guest, because I was like, oh, that's like an awesome idea, because this is like very, very recent news. You just acquired kingsnake.com. I think a lot of people don't realize how important kingsnake.com was to the hobby, and still is, and was such a big. It was like the end all be all for reptile, like the classifieds forums for people to talk and everything. And like, as a kid, when I wasn't doing schoolwork, if we're like on a computer, I'd be like going on kingsnake.com. So tell us how that came about. How did you come about even buying kingsnake.com?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess where do you want to start? Because I can very much share the same stories of being a kid, before school, after school. It might have actually been college, but that's okay. That, in the computer lab and that on Kingsnake, I remember countless times of the librarian hollering at me, hey, this is, you need to be doing schoolwork. I'm studying biology. This counts, right? So, yeah, very much central to that. How did it come about? Those things that all just kind of like fall into place. 100%. That's what happened here. That it's frankly kind of crazy that I kind of missed it until later on that it was for sale. Then saw that, hey, look, that's available. Like, this would be an absolute shame if we lose all of the information and everything that's there. Kind of your point, right? Like, it was the place back in the day. Then you ended up with those couple other places like Marilia forums, Fauna, all these different ones that showed up too. And then look what happened with Marilia. That one's gone. We lost all of that knowledge from all of these key people there. That's just gone. And it was kind of terrifying to think about that with Kingsnake. And so I saw that one. I ended up reaching out like, hey, what's kind of the deal with this? What are just tell me. And so got that information back, kind of didn't hear much else. And then honestly, I was distracted because I was getting ready for the local Pac Northwest Expo and selling enclosures and stuff, which is what I've been doing. And well, I guess a side of things I've been doing, but anyway. And so I was distracted by doing that and kind of lost track of some of those until afterwards. Then after the expo, I was like, oh man, like I haven't seen some of these emails, like what's actually happening with this? There's this stuff coming out that it's going to close. Kind of sent a big email to Jeff, just like, hey, Kingsnake meant a ton to me as a kid. I'm curious about these. Like, can we talk about some of this and see what we can figure out? And literally in the 11th hour, like 1 p.m. on the 31st, this is why all the turmoil leading up to those is when we were able to get something figured out. And so, yeah, in the 11th hour, we figured that one out. And then you've kind of seen some of those since. It's been a wild ride. You got a bunch of people coming back to the forum. It seems like overall people are excited about this. I'm excited to see things showing up on the forum. I mean, there's Gila monsters on there now. There's retics on there. There's a bunch of king snakes on there. Has to be. So I don't know. Yeah, there's a start for you. What else would you like to know? Where do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, that's but there's one real big question, and I think this is one that would be good to like wrap it up with. But I think it's actually a good one to start with too. What is the future of Kingsnake.com? Do you have any current plans for it?
Of course. Oh yeah. In the super short term, it's kind of what we're seeing. It's going to stay the same. We all kind of get to, I guess we've been joking party like it's 1999, more probably like 2005. We know some HTML code, right? Let's go back and play with some of these good old times, right? And so back to just using it kind of what it is. Dig through the forum, see what you can find. In the short, medium term, we're going to make changes. Like we understand like a bunch of this, right? Like I've heard the feedback on this about one of the last updates to the forum was to change the threads from being like an actual thread to where you had to click into each different part of it. People don't seem too happy about that one. So already looking at how we can change that, already looking at what we can do for mobile and changing some of those, make that a little bit easier. At the same time, though, it's kind of nice that you can still zoom in on it on mobile or any of the mobile devices and still click on everything and it works. So short, medium term, we'll be fixing some of those things. But a big part of this is that since Kingsnake is for the community in that, what are some of the things you guys want to see? Like, what are some of the things that would help you? I definitely have some good, I have some ideas that some of the people that I've talked with are supportive of, but I want to hear more from others of what would make it beneficial to you again. Like, I mean, Jeff, you're one of the biggest hog-nosed breed. Yeah, David, go, man.
Well, sorry, but one thing I actually liked about Kingsnake back in the day was when I was trying to figure out what shows to do, they always had a really good list of all the shows across the country, everything like that. You don't have that luxury anywhere else right now.
You are 100% right. You're going to see me writing notes on this because I want to know these things, right? So to that point, the Pomona Super Show, they'll be listed up here shortly.
Yeah.
The Pac Northwest show is up there currently. We're talking to all the other ones around. And so, I mean, I guess this is as good a place as any of like all of you guys get a hold of me, please, so that we can get your details and get you listed on there, especially because that like, David, do you remember that where then you could click into the show and then the vendors and stuff that were going to be at the show were also listed there. So you could see who all was going to be there. He's like, that still works.
Yeah, that's good. That's good info because like the reptile shows, I mean, even though the online aspect is like so important because like the social interactions with reptile people, because like the funny thing is like the reptile community, like we have like the reptile community is so large. I bet if you ask people like 20 years ago, you know some people that are into reptiles that maybe live near you, but you generally didn't have like, from what I feel like at least, probably too many close friends. Maybe some of these older people, like generation, like, maybe like I'd imagine like the Zirkles and the Hampers, like they were friends, so they knew each other. But a lot of people are kind of like, oh, I'm into reptiles, but none of my close friends really are, or anybody, but it seems like more and more people now, are interested in reptiles. So it's not as hard to find now. But, now it's the online community so accessible. You could be on your phone and you could be in Discord, or you could be just on your Instagram talking to people all day. So there's this really big social network now. So, but the reptile shows is still, awesome meetup areas. That's a lot of spots where like, hey, actually like me and my friends that interact online that all live in different states, we have these meetups kind of staged and we'll all come to like Tinley Park, or the next one's going to be Mesa, November 21st, 22nd. Then we have another big one coming up, the Pomona Reptile Super Show, January 10th and 11th. Run by Rami, one of the best shows to network at and to be there. Just see a fucking awesome selection of animals. But yeah, that's cool. Still having like these shows because I use Morph Market, but the funny thing is I was like, I'm gonna mess around and try to add my show list, and I couldn't even do it because they didn't really actually have all the shows listed that I'm even attending to even upload or whatever. So I think that's very beneficial. Reptile shows are actually very busy. All the ones I've been going to, all these expos, you get a pretty large crowd of people. So reptile shows are really good avenue to still network, whether you're buying or selling or just hanging out.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, speaking of the Pomona one, King Snake will be there at that one. We'll have a booth. Come by, see us, all that as well. Same thing. Come give us feedback. Tell us what you want to see through this. See what some of those changes will be. I agree with you about having the events and such there, that is key to the hobby. That's always one too, of like looking for the local animals and stuff that are for sale too. Like that was always a big one for me, of like who's around breeding what, who's producing what that's around here, and some of that. So it's just kind of a neat aspect of it.
Yeah. So yeah, these shows is not only like, because reptile shows, of course, it's good, place to shop and look for something you're particularly interested in. But shoot, the connections you make with people and just like that. I was wondering if you're going to do that. So I'm glad that you're going to be there. That's cool that you're going to have a kingsnake.com booth. That'll be probably the first time there's been a kingsnake.com booth at any show in probably 20 years or something like that. So I know the old person, or the owner, Jeff, he ran it. Was he, I'm guessing, like for the longest time, it seemed like he just was kind of like running, and basically they were, he was just kind of like, this is what it is. And they weren't really making too many changes. You have it, you get to preserve all that, information that's been data logged on there. And the funny thing is, it's like something like a lot of people are like, oh, they don't really worry about it too much until it's gone. And then you realize what you actually lost, because there's like forums going back into the late 90s and everything. And actually that's how I found out who Dan Eby was, the originator of Sable Hognose, was through King Snake forums. Like when I was in my teens, I wasn't the most social person, but I'd still creep to forums and I'd see what people were talking about, and I'd see what pictures they had, and I was really interested in like the weird colubrids, like the one that they had like unusual colubrids, and you'd see people with like wolf snakes, or like like snail eaters, like Costa Rican snail eaters, and then I'd see the people that were posting like herping pics. And I found Dan Eby because I was like, man, I want to find somebody that's like catching hognose. And like I would never reach out to him, but I'd keep up with what they're doing. And I eventually actually did reach out to Dan and asked him about his like red face hognose and his other stuff, and ended up like a few years after that, becoming friends with him. So,
well, that was kind of the amazing thing, right? Like the same through King Snake, I was able to find a local reptile store. I mean, I say local, they're probably a solid 35, 40 miles away, but that's pretty local, especially 25 years ago, looking for reptile stuff, right? And the coolest part was they actually had Hog Island boas, which are hands down just one of my favorites. And so that was kind of a cool thing to have found through there. Or like the same thing to your point with like the herping photos and that side of King Snake, that helped us when we were in Arizona looking for rattlesnakes, give great ideas of places to go look. So it is incredible to be able to communicate with people that way and through it, and in a way where it's not as censored.
Yeah. Do you have any plans for like making it like an app? Because so many people are on their phones nowadays. I think that's something that might be very beneficial. I mean, I know you can access it from your phone, but have some phone user friendly version.
Yep. 100%. Absolutely. I mean, I think we have to, right? Like we use our devices, our phones in that way more than kind of anything else nowadays. And so absolutely, we need to be optimized for that. There is a thread started in the King Snake forums in the general discussion kind of about some of the getting ideas from the community now. So please, anybody like go there and post there and add some ideas. And that is specifically one of the ones that we call out in there of like, we're aware of this one too, because 100% you are accurate. We need to do that. And so, yep, that one's on the roadmap.
Okay. Very good.
So, when you first got it, did you make a post early on talking about how you can start posting ads on there? You're going to do free accounts at first?
Yeah, well, and so yes, I did. And so there are currently free classified accounts, and then the enhanced classified accounts are, I think, like $35 for 3 months. We're going to go ahead and make those free starting tomorrow, at least through the end of November, maybe a little longer. We'll just see how that one goes, right? But we're going to make those ones free. We have had a lot of kind of pushback from the community on some of that. And so we will add a donate button because a lot of people have wanted to contribute And so we will do that. We're going to make those ones free. So please, yes, go sign up. You can use the classifieds. They're being posted to now. There is stuff available now. I mean, come back to Hog Island boas. There's some on there right now for $275, which seems incredibly.
Yeah, that seems cheap.
Yeah, it's I want to say it's like Redfoot Ranch in Florida or something. So
Very cool.
check them out, you know?
Yeah, that's because that's one that I think they like some stuff gets taken for granted. Kind of like you like Argentine bows. Argentine bows when I was like 15 years old, 18 years old, like $75. The problem is when it's like a boa constrictor or something that gets a little sizable, or there might be some a lot of maintenance or a little bit of a difficulty level to breeding it, but the offspring are really cheap. There's not that much of an incentive then because the availability is always there to like produce them. So I think it's kind of cool. And I talked to Dave about this, and then William Philippek too. I think it's hilarious that like African rock pythons are like $400 each now. Argentine boas are like, a shit. If I say like $500 or $600 and it's an Argentine boa breeder, they get offended if I say $500 or $600. They kind of snap like they're like $700 to $900. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. So,
were you at there was the one of our local expos? Somebody had them there though. I swear for like $400 or $500, like same thing, just way cheap. And
yeah, because they don't realize. Yeah, because they think it's like. I mean, honestly, I think if you have a big Argentine boa litter, $500 is pretty good money. And the market was just a little high, so I'm thinking some stuff might be dipping a bit, but I still think $500 for an Argentine boa is cheap because, like, I don't know where those $75 ones were originally coming from. I heard they were like farm raised, or so I guess there was some form of an import, from wild females that gave birth and then they're shipped over. Whatever the deal was, that no longer happens because obviously you don't see them anymore. Kind of like green anacondas. They stopped that too. Green anacondas like $100. Like $150 each, which is ridiculous. They should never be $150. They shouldn't be that accessible. Well, at least males. Some people will be like, man, like green anaconda is one of those ones like, oh, you have to have a good setup for it. It's got to be pretty large. But I kind of argue. I'm like, I agree, but really the males don't get that big. It's kind of funny how small male green anacondas are. I think like 7-8 foot is like tops for them. But going back to like the Hog Island boas, because Dave, I know you guys are both in the boas. I thought that's pretty interesting. Like Hog Island bows, I remember when I was like in my teens, people would like even hybridize them. And so you'd see like hypo crosses because they were like, oh, let's make them even more hypo. And so then like the peers kind of got, pushed to the wayside because they weren't, again, like a high-end dollar animal as much. So then they kind of like get taken for granted. It's kind of like Pokemon cards. Like, oh, I had this binder of all these holographics and my mom threw it in the trash. And it's like, these snakes are really friggin' cool. And then as soon as there's not as many out there, then people really appreciate them. And especially the boas people, you guys are almost purists. So it's insane that the Hog Island boas were ever being hybridized anyway. But
like at the same time on that, right? Like, I'm kind of glad that they did, because when you look at a bunch of like I've got a call albino that is just screaming with colors down his sides and all of that. And I know that he's got Hog Island mixed back into there from before, and that's part of where he's getting all that color. And so, I mean, for that side of the hobby, right? Like, I'm happy about it. And so, but it is interesting, like that dichotomy between both of like, we did lose a bunch of the pure ones, which we should keep, and I'm glad they are still some around. And then additionally, though, I'm also glad I got bred into those other ones to bring out a bunch of insane colors into them, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I like that positive, outlook on both because, like, some people are like, they're like, no, I want everything pure. And I always have some respect for like selective line breedings, color mutations. And I'm even a little like, I don't think we should do a ton of hybrids, but hybrids I don't have a problem with and stuff. And then like intergrades, of course, those aren't an issue. But anyway,
this is like an interesting one though, right? Like, I mean, if we can talk about this, like, This is a fascinating one because, like, if we're talking about hybrids, like, it's a weird discussion because is it technically a hybrid if the Hog Island boas are still, and I say it wrong every time, Imperator? How do you guys say that one?
Imperator.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't speak Latin, but anyway, BCI, right? We know what we're talking about. If they're also BCI, and then the Colombian mainland ones that have all the morphs and stuff are also BCI, is it really a hybrid? But then you also, like, if you strip that one back further, right? Like, should the Hog Islands be considered a BCI when you look at like the Pearl Island boas on just the other side of the water, right? That they're their own species. So it's kind of a fascinating one all the way around, right?
Yeah, taxonomy is a very interesting one. I wish I had a little more knowledge on the locale of these boas. But, it seems like the boa people have like, they have it seems like you guys have, your locale and purist. Like, you have like your Longicatas, you have your Surinams, you have your Bolivians, your Pokegron. I think those are a Suriname. And, but then somebody will also have like a leopard boa, which is like Central American, and they'll breed it to a BCI, so they'll breed it to like, and then that's like kind of like okay to do. And the thing is, I always think that stuff is like fine as long as it's disclosed and everything, and these percentages are kept track of. But yeah, I'm not familiar with all of these, islands and what, is making a difference between constrictor, and imperator. I don't really, because like I've had Dave tell me a few times. I don't really remember though. I'm really interested in boas, but I'm not like I don't have that much knowledge on them.
Well, and it's fascinating too, because now when you go into like the constrictor, when you go over the mountain range on the mainland, right now you're getting into those effectively. And it is fascinating. Like even those, like pulling it back to some of the taxonomy, right? I mean, I remember it 30 years ago, 20 years ago, the way it was taught that if you cross the two different species, then the offspring are not viable, which that's just like not even close to the case on any of these ones, right? You can cross a BCC. I mean, I guess it's a BC and a BI now, right? But you can cross those. The offspring are viable, still works. Same thing with a bunch of these other ones. So it's, yeah, as you're saying, the taxonomy is a fascinating one to just
kind of I mean, you can look at an imperator and a constrictor, and it's like okay, especially these like smaller like locales, like even like the smallest ones, like the Tamaharas, they look like a imperator. They just have like more of like a smushy, smaller face,
Yeah. But it's weird, like the Saboge, like the Pearl Island ones, the other side of the Hog Island, other side of like their head's that bit longer and some of that. And you see the same thing on like the boa constrictor ones, that there's different head shapes and stuff. I wish I hadn't fed everybody. It's that piece of like, I'll just go pull one out. But anyway.
Well, that's really cool.
And you talked about crosses and stuff. I was at the Rochester show one time, and I don't know how they had it. It might have just been labeled mutt, but I think it was like a Hog Island, Suriname, Argentine cross.
Oh, it's wild.
Talking about how all these things keep being bred together, and it was truly a mutt. I honestly don't even know what the fuck it looked like now that I think about it.
That sounds kind of cool. It sounds like something that piss off a lot of boa people, though. Certain boa snobs.
But I mean, but those guys are still super important too, right? Like the ones that are keeping it pure and everything as well.
They are, yes.
Because then, So
I mean, yeah, I think the locales are like awesome. Because it is kind of keeping a part of like, history and like natural. It's like the funny thing is though, it is lost a little over time, because if you take the locales, people do selectively line breed the best looking ones, and so they kind of start manufacturing their idea of what the best. What's the vision of the best version of this locale? And then after so many generations, okay, I've selectively line bred this one to be the most pink and the cleanest. And it's like, okay, you're not going to really find one in a while that's quite that pretty, but you're still increasing, exacerbating those characteristics that make that locale special. And the funny thing is, you're seeing a difference, like obviously within just a few generations of somebody selectively line breeding the best version of a locale. So where are we going to be at in like another 100 years? And, maybe it'll max out. Maybe the stuff will change a little bit. They'll still be, definitely a little representative of that original locale, and bloodline, as long as it's kept like, honest, will actually literally be of that locale from when they originally kept. But, it's getting harder and harder to get imports. So these locales are very important because, and it's already hard enough to get a lot of this stuff. So a lot of these, species, like let's say like pure Hog Island bows, like how many pure Hog Island bows are out there? Whatever is existing now is probably, that's going to be the stock that we're working with now. So it's good to preserve it.
Right. I know that was a difficult one for me, was putting together a group of unrelated ones, but still pure ones like that. Yeah. There's a few places around, but yeah. And I love that discussion, and like the point too around the way that as we breed these through the generations, even just selecting the ones that eat better, right? Like we are changing those animals, domesticating those animals and such through it to a degree. And so it's fascinating, but this is also what allows some of these crazy colors. But kind of to your point, then it is almost like somebody needs to not hold back the 8, 9s, and 10s, and somebody needs to be bringing the, the 5 and 6s out of 10s, right? That are the more representative of the natural animals to maintain those.
Yeah, when we had Craig on, we were talking about like different colubrid projects, and Trumbauer said you don't keep your 10s, you keep your 4s, 5, and 6s, I think the way he put it, because then you get too far away from what the natural look in the wild is when you just always keeping the best.
Yep.
And, kind of like what, Junior said, like, what could it be in 100 years? I was trying to think of a characteristic that we've line bred on any of these localities that could be like highly expressed. And I was thinking about like the Max Pink Argentines.
Yep.
Like we put 100 years in just breeding the pink to the pink, we might eliminate all that dark, like brown chocolate scales, and it could just literally be a pink boa.
It'd be super interesting. I mean, like I think about that with the Hog Island boas, right? Because you see that variance in them of the difference between like they'll obviously express like the tans to the whites, but then you'll get mostly they seem to have been bred for like the pink and the orange pigments. But you've got ones that throw green and blue pigments out there too. I'd love to breed more for that and see some of those come out. Imagine where that one would be. You get a blue snake in how many generations, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's the thing that was interesting about the Hog Island boas. They always kind of look like this weird, dirty, light peachish, sometimes grayish, like you said, even like almost like a little bit of greenish color, like black speckled boa.
Yeah. Yeah. And pictures don't do them justice, right? Like no matter how hard I try to take pictures of them, like they just don't look cool. But when you see them in person, they're incredible animals.
No, for sure. Too, talking like Surinames, like the Podogron and like the Fudo line stuff. I know some people are kind of crossing out stuff together. I don't know if they've ever truly had a defined look to me, because I've seen so much variance in those lines. But I don't know, man. Like I like the idea of like, in 30 years having enough Hog Islands that you can actually sit there and be like, cool, I'm going green, I'm going blue, I'm going slate gray. Like, and I don't really see a problem with that. I think that'd be awesome. And, I think as the locality surge keeps on going, because honestly, it's really kicked off hard the last decade, maybe it kind of comes to that point. And I'm sure there's going to be people in the community that are going to hate it because they hate everything. But I'm interested to see what that kind of stuff does as we have more of it to work with.
Well, and that'll be the thing, right? Like we'll get both. And I think that's like if we bring it back to King Snake for a moment, that's one of the things I liked about King Snake always, is that you had both opinions throughout the whole thing, right? And equally shown through that. And so then the locality group that wants to keep what did we decide? What was it? The 5s and 6s?
5s and 6s.
Yeah, cool. We'll go with those. That is going to keep those. Like you guys are critical of the hobby. The same time, you guys that are going to keep the 9s and 10s and breed for a bunch of insane colors, you guys are also critical to the hobby. And so having both represented through there is the piece that I'm excited about, and the piece that I remember about it and want to continue.
Yeah. And I think you get that kind of representation throughout the boa community, like you were saying, the guys that are keeping it pure, the guys that are making the sunsets from the Hog Islands with the normal line of hypo. I saw this one animal. It was on Tim Kuppenhofer's table. It was Hog Island bred into anearthristic. So it was these really nice ghosts that almost looked like VPIT positive snows. Yeah. And I was going to get them, and I didn't. And this kid, Scott, got them. And I told Scott, if you ever do anything with these animals, I want them back. Well, those animals ended up going to Del Bono. And the Cookies and Cream project started from one of those males bred into some anery IMG stuff. So that's where that really cool look went there. And, another just cool thing that we wouldn't have right now, but, these are designer pets. So let's make designer pets.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like both are critical. Like the hobby wants both. We all want both. And so what are the extremes of that, of what you can do breeding the Argentine into it and changing those colors, or the same thing of like what they do with the leopard boas, boa sigma, right? And so, yeah, man.
Well, Junior, like with the Hog Island thing, because you reminisce about back in the day how there's like what Montana line ones, not.
You talking about hog nose? You said Hog Island, but you meant to say.
I meant to say hog nose. My bad. I got hog.
Yeah.
I got hog right. Hog.
Hey,
yeah, you got the hog part right.
But so, like with some of those different localities, or not so much localities, but different states you can locate hognose in, they are completely different the further north you go compared to further south. I mean, you think there's a place in the hobby to have like state origin hognose that people just want to buy?
Oh, yeah, and you're right. They're localities. And then the one thing is like the northern locality plains hognose, they kind of all look a little similar. Like if you look at a hognose that's from like Canada, because plains hognose go up into, there's isolated populations in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba above North Dakota and Montana. But if you look at the ones even like these isolated populations that start to scatter in Canada, Minnesota, if you go down there, or you go to Montana, they kind of all look somewhat similar. They're like sometimes I'm very good at telling because it's kind of subtle. There's like nuances to these locales of plains hognose. Like, there's the ones from like Illinois look a little different. The ones from Colorado kind of have a unique look, but it's not extremely strong. If you show me like on iNaturalist, I'd have some friends test me and they'd start showing me pictures. I'd have to guess the state or region they're from. And, the New Mexico ones I'd say are the easiest for me, like the most dead giveaway. Like I could even probably show even one of you guys, and after a while, you'd probably like pretty quickly, you'd probably pick up on it. But yeah, I mean, when I was young, that's kind of the cool thing, man. I was like, I met Craig Trumbauer, and we actually had Craig on, and Craig even said to us, John, he was like, seems like you just wanted me on here to ask me about plains hognose things. and I'm like, well, I'm like a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like part of like, Craig never really, I don't think he like had like a ton of plains hognose, but when he was there at Daytona, he had Evans hypos, he had hypos, and he had like some New Mexico locales, he had some Montana locales, and he had like Nebraska locales. And he was this locale guy, and he is into bull snakes, and so he has locales of those. And so I was looking at these hognose he had, and I was like, oh man, these are pretty cool. These Nebraska ones are, pretty reddish colored. And so I bought those, and I established my red lines, and even my color blast line stuff now, there's origins of red line Nebraska stuff from Craig Trumbauer. When I bought it from when I was like 15 years old. So I kind of wanted that because of like the history, because sometimes this history and stuff gets lost. But yeah, when I used to go to these shows, especially these big expos, when I was like a teenager, the Coolabred people, you've seen a lot more locales. I feel like you see less and less, and even with the plains hognose. So yeah, it is kind of something cool to bring back just for, some, just to have like, hey, this is what like a hognose looks like from Montana. This is what a hognose looks like from, New Mexico, Texas. Colorado's a bit dicey, but actually there's like legal Colorado locales now. Actually, we have the ones from the leucistics because they originated, but those got outcrossed, so those don't really count. But there are some people that actually have license that can breed, and they can actually take some from the wild. So there will be some legal Colorado pure locale stuff probably popping up here in the next few years. And then there's that niche people that really appreciate it, even just like I talked to like Cody from Rattlesnake Ranch, and he wants to have like a plains hognose or a Mexican hognose for his program over there. And so that's what he wants. He wants like a wild like locale one. And then like even like Nick Mutton, he goes, I'd like a plains hognose. He goes, but I don't want anything fancier, these morphs. He goes, I'd like to see like a straight locale. So there's like, the like big reptile enthusiast, and a lot of people appreciate the wild look of these animals. There's definitely a cool place for these locales, and it makes a little demand. And then you can hit them with the price too. Like, oh well, this is a Yellowstone County, and like, oh okay, it's gonna be like $100. Like, it's a normal. It's like, no, it's $300 now. And they're like, oh shit.
Well, so you hit on something there that actually is something that I've been super curious about or have wanted to do with king snake. Is you're talking about like the difference of the plains hognose versus like the New Mexico and some of these, and you're like, hey, shit, man, like I'd be even able to teach you guys here in like, relative short order, you'd be able to pick them apart pretty quick. like that's something, man. How could I convince you, or how can we help? Could you write something like that? How do we get that info onto King Snake in like within the hognose section, right?
Yeah.
So then you can drop in there and it's like, okay, here's these different locales. Here's some examples of like each one and some of that. I've got hit up by a couple of people that want to help on some of those different species. And I think that's, I mean, I think that's a great idea. You asked about some of the direction where I'd like King Snake to go. This is one of the directions I'd like it to go, is have that information there. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, well, Dave, if you have anything, I mean, I'm still trying to think. I'm excited for you. I like this acquisition. I'm really happy that you're keeping like that. This information is being, data stored basically, and not like effectively destroyed. Because once it's gone, it's kind of like Toys R Us. Nobody shopped at Toys R Us anymore. But then when it's gone, we're like, oh shit. And Toys R Us wasn't even important. It was just nostalgia. They just sell fucking toys. But if you're actually interested in the reptile hobby, this is actually, there's conversations from like 25 years ago. And this is like, the reptile hobby community is actually pretty young. Because actually I was talking to the Zirkles, and, Robbie was there. And there's a question I always wanted to ask. And I was like, hey, what was because the funny thing is, the very first reptile show that the reptile shows that existed started in Ohio. So Ohio is like really big for like part of the origin of the reptile community. And I asked Robbie, I asked actually Rob, and Rob's like, he's like, it was Robbie will know. He's like, when was the very first reptile show ever? The very first like reptile show event put on? And it was 1988, which I was surprised. I thought it was going to be a little earlier than that. I thought maybe late 70s, early 80s, but they said it was 88. And they said before that they were in, can't remember whose basement, and they had like meetups, and you'd have reptiles. They brought them and kind of started out as that, and then they were basically like, hey, we should have like a reptile show event, and then it started with whoever, and then so obviously the Hampers were part of it, and the Zirkles, because they have those shows. But going back to like, what do we want to see out of King Snake? It's really cool that we have this preserved information.
Well, specifically like on that one, like what are your thoughts about like adding that locale type data and helping explain a bunch of those through it, and kind of leaning into that scientific side within the different species and stuff there? What are your thoughts about some of that part?
I think that's cool because, like Reptiles Magazine exists online now, kingsnake.com. It would be good to have like a hook to bring people in. What are people interested in? The one thing is, it's like, I'm trying to think of like, because there's just the reptile community and hobby so large now, and it really got big through social media in the last 5 years, 10 years, especially the last 5 years.
In the last 5 for sure.
So I do like that you're coming out to the show. So you're gonna have a face to King Snake. People, because like King Snake kind of like was just kind of put on the wayside, and it was just kind of what it always been, and really wasn't, hadn't developed anything new. So, trying to find the ways to bring people there.
Well, it's been interesting on that one. Like, since you bring that up, of like looking at kind of what happened there, the history wise, right? It was the place to go. Then you had the social media platforms kind of take off. We kind of rolled into like the animal groups and stuff there. We were selling stuff and animals and stuff there, connecting with people there. Now the social media platforms have really cracked down on that, where they've closed like even the chat groups and stuff that people used for connecting on that. And so really that pushed everybody through Morph Market and stuff as well, right? And so we've had kind of one platform. And so that is one of the nice things here, is now there's just another platform where you can offer your animals for sale and connect with people. Yeah.
Well, for the history and locale data log, I think basically he's got to reach out to like people that you're gonna, you'll be able to find them, like the people that have been around for a while that are gonna, have that information. So like, I could definitely help for hognose. I'm sure you have like Vin Russo for boas. Then you have like Craig Trumbauer for like, Pituophis, and I'm sure there's some other Pituophis people. So but I don't know. I think basically you just got to reach out to those people. And, that's the hardest part, though, is going to be getting reptile people to do something.
This is fair. This is fair. It's been interesting though, or it's been wonderful, I guess, more accurately. Several people have reached out wanting to help contribute to these. And I mean, I'm gonna kind of hold you to it a little bit now. You said you'd help with Hognose.
I would help
So
with Hognose, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, all I basically gotta do is I gotta get some pictures and get some descriptions. And I like writing about that stuff, because like a lot of times when I talk, like, I don't articulate exactly what I want to say, or I miss something. You write something, you can think about it, come back a day later, and be like, oh yeah, I forgot this, I could add this.
That's kind of what I love about King Snake, like the same way, right? Is like it brings us back to some of those writing and like articulating some of those things this way. And we are at like this wonderful point in time where we have so many people that have so much knowledge that please like spend some time, write those ones down and send them to me. Let's publish them. Let's put them up on King Snake for the rest of the hobby to benefit from and the rest of us to learn from, right?
Yeah.
But so, you're talking social media a little bit earlier, but, I think you're going to have to do a lot on social media now to draw people to the site, maybe taking links from old conversations, putting them on there to draw people in. You're going to have to do something Instagram related. I'm not even sure if King Snake has an Instagram yet. And also, kind of, count it. The only thing I would say is don't change, and this is just me, I wouldn't rebrand the logo. I think the logo is traditional. I think it's old school. I wouldn't touch anything like that.
I agree.
What about this? Get rid of the logo. Call it hogislandboa.com. No longer kingsnake.com, hogislandboa.com, and a Hog Island boa.
I think that's too focused on me. I don't think that'll work.
Yeah, no, I agree with Dave. Yeah, keeping it like the original King Snake, of course, and like the logo that's really neat. It kind of reminds me of the Reptile Super Show. They have the shirt with the California Mountain King on it, and that reminds me of like the kingsnake.com. And so
yep.
I think what a great place to have a booth at, for the new owner of kingsnake.com, and to put it out there into the wild with the reptile people, because a lot of people like they're just on social media, so they're seeing Morph Market and they're seeing Palm Street,
Yep.
And kingsnake.com is is like the .com of the reptile experience and the community. Then now we're all app focused and social media focused. So like Dave says, like Instagram would be good,
yep.
And then some form of an app. I don't know. The one thing though is I know this stuff can get tricky when you need to program and you need developers. So I don't know what you're doing in that aspect. Do you have any knowledge of that with yourself? Like, do you do anything with
programming?
Yeah, programming.
Algorithms?
I know a very small amount there, but enough. And then we do still have programmers in that help with the site and such. And so yeah, we're covered on that front.
All right, good.
Yeah. So it's also one of those of where I get in trouble because that, you can talk about things and it sounds like you swoop your hands across the keyboard and then out comes this gorgeous app or update or whatever. And, we all know the reality. It's not actually like that. So I do hope that people can bear with us that bit as we do make changes. This is also the thing of like right now of just wanting some good feedback and stuff from people of like, what are those changes? What would make that app better for you to use and easier and fun? Like what we've heard so far and what seems to make sense is keeping it still nostalgic and kind of the way that it's been, right? Like there's a simple complexity to it, but there's also this side of like, I don't know, it always has reminded me of like herping, right? Of like trying to find that next one and trying to go through there and look through there. There's something a little more fun about it. And I don't know, it's hard to explain, I guess.
I'd say the one thing that probably needs an update, I don't know how hard it'd be, and I'm not sure what it's like now because I haven't even looked at it. Because I used to sell on King Snake Classifieds. That was like my main like source for public posting, other than like a website that I had at that time. But I'd say the Classifieds probably need the most update for like, especially if you're gonna make it user friendly from your phone. And
Yeah.
I don't know how much work that entails. I think it'd be quite a bit. But I think that's going to be a big draw, having a really accessible, very clean, easy to navigate classifieds from your phone.
Yep.
I mean, that was the big draw to Morph Market. And then maybe implement that with the forums too. And so I think it is just from me speaking, like it sounds like it's kind of like a lot what you're looking at. You're looking for, new input, how to change it, but also you want to keep it like all the old school stuff there too. So I don't know if you're going to have like, kind of like, two versions of almost like King Snake, where it's like, okay, we have this updated like classifieds and forums, and then here's all the data log stuff, and it's all staying the same. So if you want to click on it and explore it, it's there. But we have this new, very accessible, forums and classifieds, because having, I think, maybe chat groups and stuff. I mean, that's one thing though. Facebook kind of took over there, with these groups and everything. Because King Snake, and like even like Gecko forums, it's like, okay, you have these areas and you have these forums to talk there. But I think the classifieds would be, one of the biggest draws and everything like that. So adapting the classifieds to an app, and I don't know, I'm trying to think.
No, you're right. It's like the images is like one of the difficult pieces right now, is like uploading your images and putting some of those through there because of some of the size requirements and that. And so there's definitely some updates and such that are needed there. These are things where, please understand me, like those are being scoped out. I don't have timelines for those things yet, but you're 100% right. I completely agree with you that they're making it easier for you to upload them. I mean, like, Jeff, like you're a great one to understand from, right? Like with you selling a lot of animals and producing a lot of animals, what makes it easy for you within those and that as well, right? Because like you're going to look at that kind of differently than somebody that has a couple clutches a year. And I'd like to make things that are for both of you, because that like I spent a bunch of time in tech, right? And so some of that was both direct to consumer stuff, but then like business to business. And so that's something that I've heard from a lot of people too, is that some of the large breeders, right? Like you may want to wholesale off animals, but don't want to put that publicly to everybody. And so this is something that I'm quite interested in, is like how we're going to do this with allowing you to put those like just to say like pet stores or something like this. And so it's kind of a closed off list of them or people that you've chosen that you can sell those to, compared to just everybody, because that's not what it's for. And it's difficult for you to go to everybody or all the different local stores and try to find people that are going to buy wholesale. Right. So
this is kind of, random, but like, you're trying to figure out exactly what you're going to be geared to. I know there's going to be a lot of different people for a lot of different parts of the industry that are going to be interested in coming back and working on this. But, I think the Kluber market is actually going to be one really big aspect to King Snake for a couple reasons. Your accounts are cheaper, and, most Kluber projects are on the low side. When you talk about the wholesale aspect of it, there's already, I think, a wholesale part on Morph Market, I believe. I haven't checked it out, but I do think there is a classified section for that on there. There's definitely ways you can work some kind of wholesale thing, like you said, into it. Like Junior said, trying to get people to interact with something that they haven't interacted with in a long time. Not that that's going to be difficult, but you have to get the new people involved, and you got to make it cool for them. How to do that? I'm old. I don't know what's cool anymore. Not like I used to. Junior's a little more of a hipster than I am, man. I don't know if I'm cool factor. Like you said, it's cool preserving everything that we had. Thank God we're going to keep that. It's not going away. Reamping it to get it to where it's a functional website where people are going to go for sales. It's going to be work, as you know. At first, it's going to be breeders buying from breeders on there. How are you going to get the general public to start talking about it? Because the general public has not tried to go on there in a very long time.
This is true. And it's been interesting talking to people too, because you've got both, right? Like kind of as you guys were saying, in the last 5 years, people that have been in the hobby like 5, 6, 7+ years, all of us kind of remember King Snake. Whereas then, you got a lot of big breeders and a lot of people that have come up in the last 5, 6 years that then still don't. And so it is one, you're right, of kind of making sure that all of us are aware of that and that it benefits all of us and it has something for everyone there, right? And so I think some of that comes to exactly what you say. We just need good options, good trusted options when it comes to classifieds. And so you are right. We got Morph Market. It's good that we'll have another one available, especially considering that King Snake allows venomous sales, which is not the case on many of the other platforms, right? And so That's one big thing where we need the diversity across the different ones. The same thing then I think comes back to like, I'm curious about the forums and the chat groups and stuff of like how much these are going to pick back up from people and how much attention should be put there as well. Because I've seen that on other groups or in other platforms kind of not used as much. And then with seeing what some of the social media platforms have shut down recently, then I don't know, is this a space that is more useful where that you can actually discuss breeding animals and the different stuff without the fear of it being shut down or taken off, right?
Yeah. So, what I would think is a draw, but might not be a draw for everybody. But like, when you're talking about like these discussions on there, creating conversation, you really need like an OG on there. Like we said, like a Craig Trumbauer, a Rick Shiley, a Vin Russo, one of these guys that grew up on that site, created their business on that site, and are still on there trying to keep the conversation alive. I think Joe Schmo going on there and try to spark up a conversation like it used to be probably isn't going to be all over. Like you said, there's kind of Facebook for that. If you can get some of the pioneers that kind of come out of the woodwork, do a little stuff on there that they're comfortable with, I think that would actually benefit the website.
Well, you're 100% right. And keep an eye on the website. It is the number of, as you say, OGs and people that I've spoken to and that they're like, oh my God, I love King Snake. I'm so glad that this is coming back, that this is going to get attention and they're getting traffic. Yep, I'm there. I'm going now to go post my stuff. So there's a lot of people that are coming through. So to your point, yes, keep an eye. They're here. They're coming back. So especially like to your point on the colubrid ones. So there's stuff coming here too. So yeah.
Well, very interesting to see where this goes. Definitely excited again that this isn't going anywhere. And I'll be seeing you pretty shortly too, in Pomona, because that's coming up.
Yep.
That's early January. So yeah. So anybody, again, if you're going to the Pomona show, stop by, see John. If you have any cool input, kingsnake.com, check it out. That's how a lot of us actually kind of, like, again, that's what you're saying. You sound like you had a similar affinity for kingsnake.com, John, whereas like I was in school and like, I was supposed to be like during like, I don't even remember what the class was, but we're on the computer and we're supposed to be doing whatever project. And I would usually I just got straight F's through that whole class, actually. I'm not even kidding you. And I just go on kingsnake.com the whole time. And then there'd be other kids like, you're going to like, flunk out. And I was like, yeah, I know. And then the whole entire time, it was actually very useful to what I do nowadays for a living. And I actually, because at that time, it seemed like I was just fucking around. I was. But, I was also reading stuff about reptiles.
I was learning, come on.
Yeah, I was looking at prices of stuff and, go ahead, Dave. You raise your hand. What's up?
You did inevitably flunk out, right?
Yeah, I had very poor. Well, like the one year, I think I had like 80 tardies. I went to a school, though, that is like in a local small newspaper. They put out how like they were purposely passing kids because like they had like Hudson School District had this notoriety to being like, oh, we have like, really kids that are getting like the best grades and everything. This, is like one of those nicer communities. Like I lived in Boston Heights. So I lived like, if I lived on the other side of the road, I would have went to Northfield School District. Shit, I'm giving people about my like, actual history. So if you want to try to hack like my shit, just start writing some of this information down. I'll probably give you my mom's maiden name in a minute. And so, yeah, I got like the one year I had like some of my friends, they wanted to see my report card because it was so friggin' bad. The one quarter or whatever semester, whatever you call it, I had a 0.0 GPA because I didn't even show up like half the time. And so I was like, how's that even possible? I was like, but yeah, they actually, I passed most grades. The last year I was in school, though, like half of them I didn't pass. I did good in social studies, though.
All right.
Look at you now.
Yeah, look at you now, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, like I liked educating myself. Self-education is definitely very effective because, you're actually put in charge to go out there and learn what you want to learn. And, so.
Well, that's one of the things I always loved about King Snake, right? Was that King Snake was not like, you'd see both sides of an argument. You'd see absolute stupidity on some things and you'd see absolute brilliance on things. right? And so it was up to you to use your good judgment on what actually made sense and what was smart, what was accurate.
Yeah.
You went to college early, buddy.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could pick up any, like, especially nowadays. I mean, even then it was pretty easy, but so much stuff is published online, and sometimes you can even like me, like, I mean, I have a lot of like knowledge on, like, just the plains hognose in captivity, and I have a decent understanding of basic genetics. But shit, if you message me and ask me a question, I'm generally gonna respond. Even if you don't buy stuff from me, I respond to people. You can go on Google, you can Google search pretty much anything. You can find data papers and stuff and research. You can go to ResearchGate and find actual published scientific peer-reviewed pieces of work. You can find thesis papers. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there. And again, it kind of entails or loops back into what we're talking about, preserving information here that could be good. Because, kingsnake.com is like something that pretty much everybody here, even though I have not gone on kingsnake.com, I think, in a few years. So now I'm interested in going back on there and actually do some old browsing and stuff. And maybe that'd be something too that you could do. That'd be cool is maybe, and that'd be a tough one though. You need so many people looking at stuff and somebody to decide like, hey, this information is actually really cool. Somebody said this, back in 2008 or 2002. And it could be somebody that's no longer in the community with us. It could be somebody that's like, and you could like actually like, hey, you could take that segment and then like publish it and then have like maybe a section of like gems, like old gems of like conversations people had or information that's like lost. Like, because sometimes you argue about stuff like, oh, so and so had this and this back 20 years ago, and then there's probably some evidence with not everything, but some of that stuff that's happened that was on kingsnake.com. And I remember somebody is actually on I think it was actually on Fauna, but I have seen stuff like on Kingsnake like this where somebody had locales of like the one was Sherburne County locale hognose snakes. That's in an area just a little north of Minneapolis. And and you could always go back to like, oh, I never knew anybody had those or sold them, but somebody was selling them. And I'm sure you could find stuff like that in conversations. I remember, I think Craig was talking. I remember seeing them on Kingsnake Classifieds. Who was it? Like Shannon Brown, and because he said that name, and I remember seeing them on Kingsnake, and that name brought up a lot. So especially in the next like 10, 20 years, that history becomes even more cool. The longer and longer, we get from that, original era.
Yeah, no. And that's actually a really good point. We here in the next couple of days, we're going to release a photo of the day contest of that, like community photos. But I think you're right. We should add another one about finding like old gems off of the forum and that, because there's some incredible things in there. And so that's a good idea. And that's like also even taking that to your point of like using that to cite some different stuff of some of those locale ones and some of these, because there are legendary people that founded a bunch of this stuff that had discussed it on the forums. So that's a really good idea. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had nothing.
All right.
I was going to say something. I can't remember. I was going to maybe change the subject, but I'm not going to change it yet. So you initially reached out to Jeff, started the conversation. Then there was a long gap of just not talking. When you first had that conversation, though, you probably started going through things in your head that you wanted to do, or like what your expectations were. Like, what were some of your early expectations before you even knew you had the website?
Well, I mean, I expected that we are. I guess I don't fully understand the question. I expected
about this, like when you thought you had a chance to get it, what was the first thing that went through your head that you wanted to do with it? Like some aspect of the site that you wanted to not so much preserve, because we already understand that, but like, you had to have like things turn in your head, like, oh my God, what if I own Kingsnake tomorrow? First thing I'm going to do is this. Second thing I'm going to do is this. Maybe I can do that. Like, throw some stuff at us.
Yeah, any changes?
Yeah. The biggest one was reminding people that it's around and that it works, right? I mean, kind of like a bunch of us forgot. I mean, that's kind of what you guys were saying too, right? Of like, oh yeah, kind of fell by the wayside. And so that was one of the biggest ones of just, hey, remember this part. And so that was one of the big ones. But then it was really one of those of the main things I started thinking about were the classified sections and the forums. And the biggest thing I was thinking about was being neutral and the lack of censorship and the ability that this provides to allow the community and people to discuss both sides of an issue without fear of repercussion, without fear of, I mean, like, look, you can still make yourself look like a moron out there, but without fear of like getting banned from the classifieds because that you have whatever opinion on breeding snakes or something like this, right? And where that people could actually have good, fair discussions about things on both sides, rather than it just everything getting pulled down.
Yeah. And I like that a lot, because like you said, you're limited to what your discussions are going to be. If you're going to go online, if you're on Facebook, shit's going to get taken down. Most of that stuff's just kind of in the comments. Things get a little sloppy. Then they're out of order. Like I said, I'm old school in the sense of I remember my days on King Snake, but I'm also old school in the sense of I don't do shit online at all other than social media on a couple sites nowadays. Like I said, I remember, like you guys said, I would wake up, I go on King Snake, I go to the Boa Gallery, see what pictures are up. Go in the Ball Python Gallery, see what pictures were up. Maybe check another gallery, maybe not. And then I'm jumping over on VPI's website. I'm checking the bragging post. I'm checking the diaries. And then I was done online. Like, that was it. But like Junior said, when it came to like the shopping aspect, I loved going on King Snake. I'd be on there all day long. I'd be checking ads. I guarantee some of the first things I ever bought outside of going to the shows was on King Snake. But everything I'm saying right now, man, I just keep on leaning back to the colubrid community. Like, I really think there's going to be a bigger draw for them to what you're doing than anything else off the bat. And then I think organically it will grow on its own. But I really think there's going to be a space for you with the colubrid guys, and you just got to figure out how to accommodate them.
That's a good point. I appreciate you pointing out that they've kind of been left behind on some of those, because that is where King Snake was founded, right? It was on a place for people to talk about finding king snakes and breeding king snakes, right? So that's a good call. The colubrids have always been a little bit of a blind spot for me, if I'm being totally honest. So I've always been really passionate about boas and Heloderma.
That's fair.
Yeah,
and we're going to talk about those guys in a second. That was a good segue into it. Last thing I'll say, and then we'll segue into those guys. I mentioned when we were on the phone, I used to sell acrylic display cases, and I used to post, I think it was the acrylic ad spaces, our rack ad spaces on there. Now, that's something that isn't really out there anymore. So if you could lean into that part of the community, so people that are building can put it out there, people can find local buyers that way, I think that'll actually go a long way.
Well, and so thanks for bringing that up too, because like that is the thing within the classifieds, right? Like we have those sections. I think I'm gonna talk out of both sides of my mouth, and I'm sorry, because there's a piece of like some of those sections we need to kind of build them out a little bit bigger. A good example is the one that is titled like spiders, tarantulas, and invertebrates. That's a huge community, right? We can't that can't be that condensed. And then, but to your point, like on the other ones, we have the sections for incubator supplies, for cage supplies. And then the cool thing too is that with it already being kind of built for the local pieces too, you can go in there and select your state and then see your local enclosure builders that aren't shipping everywhere else, but they're local to you. And then you can deal with those guys and support your local businesses and stuff too. And yeah, I agree with you. Like these are the sides that we're going to lean into, is really going to be the classifieds and helping people connect on that side, and helping really everybody every legitimate person be able to offer and sell their products.
Yeah, and you can sell like that's. I didn't know that you're the only King Snake's the only platform that's allowing like venomous sales. So I guess everybody else is terrified of like. Well, I don't mean to put it out there, like, but we got like being responsible or any type of litigation, but that's obviously when you're working with HOTS, that's on the person that's selling them, and you just want to make obviously you can't control what people do, but you can put it in place. Hey, these are the
that kind of comes to like the censorship piece, right? And the like, and any of those, right? And so the fact is, every single one of these animals is illegal somewhere, but it's also
Yeah,
legal
true.
somewhere else. I mean, like hognose are a great example of that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so, you know, that's kind of the thing on it. And so people need to do their due diligence on that. You know, people, yeah, it's, yep.
Plains hognose are such a weird one because, like, the one state where it's like completely off limits, actually, well, aside from Hawaii, you're not allowed to have any snake though, but is like Iowa. But not one person has ever gotten in trouble in Iowa for owning a Plains hognose snake. Like,
Right.
there is no story. There's nobody knows, and if you even ask them, they don't even know their own laws. If you message the Fish and Wildlife or DNR there, they like, we don't know, basically. Sometimes they say yes. They don't seem to care, but I still don't mess with it. But
Same.
yeah, the hot stuff though, it's like, well, actually, I live in Ohio. Ohio used to be very hot friendly. It's not so bad. Yeah, I can the heloderma. I don't need a permit for them.
Right. Same.
When they wrote up the legislation for that one, they put venomous snakes.
Yeah.
Right, venomous lizards.
Yep.
And then I'm right next to Pennsylvania, which actually Pennsylvania as a kid, I didn't really like that state as much because I don't know. But now that I have, you know, better opinions, Pennsylvania is actually pretty cool, and you're allowed to do whatever the hell you want out there, you know. So I don't like too much regulation. I mean, I could understand why it needs to be there, and it's kind of neat that, you know, that there is a state still where it's like, you know, it's kind of like left a little open. But yeah, people, when they do have that kind of power, you need to be responsible. It doesn't mean you go ape shit and you just start selling venomous stuff to like a kid and like alligators left and right. It's like, we need to definitely, you know, not advocate that. But
Well,
yeah, there's still like
we're
South
not,
Carolina
right?
too. Sorry, go. What did you say?
And we're not, right? Like we are
Yeah.
definitely not advocating that. It's more of like, I guess from my perspective on that one, it's there are legitimate people doing the right thing of offering venomous snakes. And so if that's the case, then those people should be able to advertise their products on King Snake and connect with people, right?
All right. And then Cindy says kingsnake.com will comply with all subpoenas we receive. So you all better be legal. Yeah. So just do everything legally.
That's another good point of like, when it comes down to those. Yeah. If whenever any of that comes to us, look, you guys, all that's going to them. So be smart. We're yeah. Don't break the law.
Yeah, don't break the law. Plus, it gives like Fish and Wildlife something to complain about and say, hey, look, the reptile hobby is doing this. So if you don't want to do anything illegal, just don't. Just do it out of spite. Do everything legally in spite. Even if you are somebody that wants to do stuff illegal, stop it because it's annoying and it paints us a bad picture of the reptile community. And we also got an Ohio hater here. We have Joseph Kovac, some guy saying "Boo, Ohio." Holy shit. I don't like seeing that.
I don't want to get into how much I hate Ohio's story again, you know, because your mom got on me last time for it. But I still think it's probably one of the worst states in the United States.
These motherfuckers. You ever been to Indiana?
Yeah, you're right. It's pretty sloppy there too. Ohio, something about Ohio. It's always just been a little worse for me.
Yeah, I guess it's because I live here, huh?
No, it's not that.
I would have thought that made it better.
Yeah, it probably makes it better. Well, Dave would even say, well, actually, I don't want to say that one because that puts other reptile breeders on blast because he basically said, yeah, he couldn't think of like any real good breeders in Ohio. He said there's very few. And he goes, you're like one of the few I could even think of. And I'm like, yeah, maybe that's good. You're not too far off.
But
that's like what you're saying. That's like what you're saying earlier. It's kind of funny. Like we perceive this always of like, oh man, there's so few people away. But like, that's what you're saying about going to expos. Go to your local expos because you meet a ton of people that are actually local. And that's kind of the cool thing. You see how big the hobby really is in your local area.
Well, it's funny you say that, John, because I do the exact opposite. I go to expos like all over, and there's so many damn shows in Ohio, and I don't really do too many of them. Every now and then I do the Medina one, the Cleveland show. Maybe I'll get out there in December. It's just like, it's funny, man. I like traveling a bit and going to, these bigger expos and meeting up with people. So a lot of times I end up like, I like going to like the Atlanta show. I like going to the Pomona show, Anaheim, those Pack NWRS shows, Pacific Northwest. And like when it comes to like doing local shows like Ohio, I'm just like, nah.
Well, see,
I'm
so but like
good.
so see, I guess I'm biased then, right? Like the Pac Northwest one is my local show. That's a great one. And so
Yeah.
I hate to say it, maybe David and the other gentleman commenting, well, no, maybe they weren't right. But I guess the state does have to be worse. One state
Well,
has to be worse.
the one problem is there's too many monthly shows. If you go to a place like, and it's like that way, actually out in the middle of nowhere, believe it or not, like even Montana, they have like so many monthly shows. So when there's monthly shows all the time, it's kind of tough because like, you know, a lot of people in the area then, I mean, it's good for them because they can go there and they can pick up like feeders and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you have fewer shows, people are more likely to come out and attend them and to save up and actually be interested in actually buying something and like take it more seriously versus just being, oh, I'm gonna, you know, or like I do a show in Ohio and people are like, oh, I didn't know you're gonna be at that one. Oh, because I didn't go to that month because I went last month. And I'm like, yeah, great. Like I would have bought some stuff, but I didn't know you were going. So that happens.
I've heard this.
So back to Venomous. We can talk about Ohio again, but back to Venomous.
All right.
So, you know, I had a buddy who had an idea years ago where he was talking about doing a website that would have like the United States on. You click on a state and go over every single regulation for venomous animals within your state. So, oh no, that's just it. I mean, it's going to be not so much a liability, but I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people stay away from the whole venomous aspect in the hobby. And you know, you're going to want to be able to cover your ass in some way, shape, or form. So, you know, if there was something on there that was maybe a tool that can guide the buyer and the seller with different states' regulations, put it out there that this information is readily available to your buyer and seller. And, you know, on every single venomous ad, it could be a link at the bottom within King Snake to go there if they want to look at the description. Cover your ass, buddy. I don't want to see King Snake go away because you lose a cobra one time.
Yeah, hey, no, I agree with you. And you are a brilliant human being, and you are right. I'm actually very excited to talk to US ARC specifically about that because US ARC has done a ton of that research. US ARC is constantly watching out for the hobby and for all of us keeping animals and stuff and fighting the good fight for us, right? And so I've already been in contact with them. I shouldn't speak for them, so I won't. But I've been in contact with them, and that's something that exactly what you're describing that I want to discuss with them and be able to add in there. Because again, with the way King Snake is already built for a bunch of local things, the programmers are gonna stab me for this one, right? It should be relatively easy. It's not, but like we should be able to implement those things and put that in there where that we can't, so that then you can see those things more easily and understand that. And so I agree with you. I would like to do this, and I'm hopeful that we can collaborate with like US ARC to do so.
Yeah, US ARC has been actually doing more and more like good stuff. I mean, that's the thing. As they get like, you know, like better funding, because hiring lawyers to fight proposed legislation all the time is not cheap. And so unfortunately, they're very well, we need them. It's nice to have, they're very necessary. But yeah, they've actually been trying to like undo like poor legislation that was written like 20, 30 years ago in states. And they just like, it's just left there because like nobody wants to actually change it. And they're actually going out of their way and actually starting to hit some of that stuff, which will actually grow the reptile community. Like, you know, making it legal to sell certain reptile species that weren't previously legal in that state. I don't want to speak on the one they're doing yet until it passes or it goes, but it's looking pretty promising. And in about a year or less, we'll see. But anyhow, yeah, they actually have a lot of really good information that they culminate. Every now and then, if I need to ask like a legal question regarding certain, you know, species, like I'll ask like Phil, and a lot of times he has an answer.
Yeah. They're huge for me when, you know, years back getting into Heloderma, making sure that was all okay through the state and double checking a bunch of that through them. They're an exceptional resource for that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
So, yeah, some people are like, I don't know. The one time I was in here, it was like, you know, a lot of times you think of stuff you could have said later. But as we were talking about, Dave, we were talking about, man, it was with Chad Fuchs. Yeah, we were bringing up, like, you know, the time he was, like, brutally harassed and I'll say assaulted, even though he wasn't fit. He was mentally assaulted by, I don't even know who the fuck it was. He had like the one permit, but he didn't have the other one. I wish he was here to say it. But yeah,
He's
he
talking
got
about
his
the
animals
Tinley show.
confiscated. What?
Oh, he's talking about when he was at the Tinley show. He was
When
being
he's
harassed
at the
by
Tinley show,
animals on his table.
Yeah, he got some hognose confiscated, and he actually had correct permits, but he was missing one, and it was from like the state of like, god damn, what was like something resources, and I'm like, dude, I was like, I didn't ever hear, it was just a bureaucratic nonsense that you didn't have this one piece of paper, and even the person from the DNR that allowed him to file to have the approval to sell there, whatever paperwork that person at that time approved of, and whatever the permit was, he didn't even know about this one. So I was like, they should have gave him a pass, but they kind of did, but they were like, basically, they were still dicks about it. They're like, well, they contacted him and they said, we'll drop everything, just relinquish the snakes to the state, and we get to keep them. It's like, all right, so basically you're strong arming me, and you're extorting these snakes out of me. Not that they even want them, but they're just trying to rectify a dumb situation by not ruining his life any further. And they're like, well, what we could do is we could just take these animals, and then whatever happened to them, hopefully they gave them to like a program or whatever.
Hopefully they give them back to him or something, right? But yeah, I mean, these are kind of some of the silly things, and where it's thankful that we have US Art to try to fight some of that for us overall, because most of us don't want to get caught up in that.
Yeah, and that's the guy, because the one guy in the comments there, he kept saying like, where was US Arc? It's like, this was like in 2001. US Arc wasn't formed until like freaking like 2008, man. So it's like in US Arc, they can only do so much. Their purpose is mostly fighting bad legislation, because there's so much of it that is proposed in different states, and then sometimes on the federal level, and that's where the whole existence of US Art comes into play, is because of that. Yeah, so it's Illinois Conservation. Yeah, Illinois Fish and Wildlife. I think it had to do with conservation. They had some, and now they don't require that, as far as I know. I don't know. I should ask them about that. I'm like, hey, whatever happened with that? Because I still vend there, and I have, because to sell hognose in the state of Illinois, you need to have a permit, and the permit's extremely easy to get. It's free. A lot of people are exhausted at doing stuff, because these people even at the show. I'm just kind of talking off course now, but I'm just basically, I'm just sharing my thoughts at this point.
But these are interesting, helpful things for people, right? Of like understanding then of those of like, okay, look, just go get a permit. It's free. It's easy.
It is. I start showing, but some people like, people are like, they're exhausted, at the end of the day. They don't want to, like, I was like, you can get a permit to own a Plains hognose snake in Illinois. It's friggin' free. It takes 10 minutes to fill out. The only thing that they require is your personal information, and this is they are federal, so the stuff is like safe with them. So they're going to ask for your just like personal information, because they want to know where these animals are being kept. And the only thing that qualifies or disqualifies you from owning them is if you have child support back payments. So that's it. So if you're a deadbeat dad or deadbeat mom, that's the only thing that rules you out from owning a hognose snake. So I should actually start now. People don't really care, but I was like, I start prompting down, because some people are like, yeah, I don't know if I want to fill it out. I was like, it takes 10 minutes. I'm going to start accusing all those people of having children they don't pay for, because I'm like, well, why don't you want to fill it out? That's a bit suspicious. Just fill it out. It's like, what's preventing you?
I mean, sometimes you don't want to fill out stuff and provide it to the government. I can understand that part.
That's all it is. Yeah, but that'd be about it.
They already have your stuff.
I mean, that's fair. This is true.
They track everything. They got everything they ever want. They track your searches. They know what your Instagram's posting. Just give it to them. They're not going to do anything with it anyway.
No, they know who you are anyway.
Yeah, they don't know. They have. It's like, I think there's like, what is the FBI? Their watch list is so big, it starts to become a problem. Because if you have like 10 million people in the United States on the watch list, that's like 3% of the population. It's like, and if you keep growing it, pretty soon it's going to be like 5%. You might as well just watch everybody. And then at that point, you can't even keep a track on. They can't even keep track on it because they always be like, oh, this dude did this. Like, yeah, he was on a watch list, but that didn't prevent anything that happened.
I think there was a recent case for something like, I think the headline is, things you say to your AI is not private, it is public information. So I think guys were like, I think it was the Palisades fire. The guy, like, right after he called the cops or just before he called the cops, he asked his AI, like, if he'd be in trouble for starting the fire or some shit like that.
That's crazy.
Or can you get in trouble for accidentally starting a fire? I think he asked his AI.
Yes. Anybody, you don't even have to ask AI that one.
No. So
the answer is yeah.
So John, when did you get in the hobby? Around what year?
99, 2000, somewhere around there, 2001, yeah, something like that. So depends on how you want to count it, right? I mean, catching like frogs and garter snakes and stuff in the yard. Maybe I shouldn't say that because you're not supposed to keep any native species or anything, right? But like, look, I was a little kid.
So long ago. You're good.
Can't charge every little kid, buddy.
Yeah, they'd have to charge every little kid. Yeah, they'd have to like, oh, you caught a toad and kept it for a week.
I mean, look, you made me nervous. You guys are only just brought up the FBI, triggered all the different things for them to now be paying attention to it. No, yeah.
Well, Fish and Wildlife, they really only care about like breeders that are like big and whatever they're doing right then and there. They actually are pretty like, even in like the DNR, like, because my friend Tim, he works with wildlife. He does animal rehab and he works with a lot of birds. Somebody called in and they're like, somebody is catching songbirds, which is illegal, and they were selling them. They're trapping them. And then DNR was like, oh, well, does he have any right now? And they're like, well, no. And they're like, well, call us when he does. That's the house. Yeah, so they don't even, like, a lot of times they have to have a lot of evidence. Like, you have to be doing something at that exact moment. So if you did something like 10, 20 years ago where it's like you kept like a toad for a pet and you were like 12 years old, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, no, I was mostly kidding. And yeah. But no, I mean, so like if you count those things, yeah, probably, yeah, I was a little kid catching some of that stuff, doing that. Then I don't know, somewhere still like, around the same time frame, got my first boa. Then as I got a little bit older, got a couple other boas and started breeding some when I was, what would that have been? Like early 2000, I was breeding a couple of boas, did some just like BCIs, right? Nothing super, super crazy. Yeah, around the same time, then just keeping some other ones, got in a bunch of, I ended up working for a pet store, which was great. That is really a great way. If you're into reptiles and stuff, yeah, go work at a pet store. And then you got people bringing in, oh, I can't keep this tegu anymore. Really? Bring it by. We're like, what is it? And so, yeah, ended up with all kinds of interesting things through there. A little bit after that, ended up doing venomous for a while, like gaboons, cobras, a couple of fun things that way. Like a little squamager, a little Theris squamager, or however you want to pronounce that one. That was one where it shot up the hook on one of those times with me, is like you're just moving it so you clean the enclosure. And yeah, I don't know. That one made me pretty uncomfortable. So yeah. Yep.
Did you grow up in Oregon, or are you from Oregon or Washington?
Washington. Yeah. Washington. Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Cause I knew you're from the Pacific Northwest, but I'm so far east. I don't know. Like, I always have to ask everybody out there, is like, do you live in Washington or Oregon? Because I see you at both shows and they're close enough, because you got the two big ones up there, the Hillsborough and the Puyallup show.
Yep. And for whatever reason, like, I thought you lived in like Spokane out here, and then learned, I was like, what, he's in Ohio? No, really? Okay.
Yeah. So some people, like, I always do. I say that to people jokingly. They'll be like, are you local? And I'm like, yeah, I'm local. I live in the U.S. I'm like, I'm in Ohio. So I'm like, but I know Nick Mutton's in Spokane. That's like the only breeder I know that's from Spokane.
Yeah, we got a couple of good names and stuff around here.
Yeah, those are nice shows. So you grew up in Washington too. So this whole time, your childhood with reptiles, you're in the, are you pretty close to Seattle, or are you outside of Seattle?
Yeah, I'm pretty near Seattle, and so yep. Well, pretty near and so yep.
Yeah, you have nice shows up there. You know, they're not like overwhelmed with like too many animals for sale, but there's some pretty cool niche stuff. And then the heloderma scene out in the Pacific Northwest is very strong.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, because luckily in both Washington and Oregon, you can just own them. And so a lot of people up there, you know, they're like, oh, this is like qualified as like a really good pet lizard that you just have to be careful with. So I see some, that's one thing I really look forward to going to that show is like, you always see a pretty cool selection of heloderma there, whether it's like, you know, helos or beatids.
Yeah, that's true. And then, I mean, just like generally, I mean, I think Jeff that runs the show has done a phenomenal job getting good, like a good mix of animals and everything there. So I agree with you. And it is nice that the good representation of beatids and everything.
That's a big reason I go up to those shows is actually because of Jeff. I went out there one time to do the show. I talked to him. And he's like, yeah, I really like to get new faces here. There's not a lot of hognose here. And then he's like, yeah, really, you know, prompted me to come out more. And he goes, hey, if you come out here, he goes, I'll give you a spot. Just let me know. And he's always encouraging me to come out there. And I like going out there. It's quite a bit different than Ohio. So those are nice shows to attend. And so I think anybody that's in the reptile community, if you are from Washington or Oregon, the PAC and WS shows, I'm sure anybody that it'd be pretty mind-blowing if somebody's really into reptiles and they haven't heard of them. But those are great events to attend.
They really are. And Jeff actually came to me with a fantastic idea that we're going to release here shortly. That basically he wants to support up-and-coming breeders and that, including like helping them vend, logo design. I mean, it's pretty freaking cool. I'm pretty fucking excited about what he was telling me about and stuff. And it was an easy, yes, 100% King Snake would want to support you on that and work with you on this and do it. And so I'm super excited for more of that to come out. He's a good dude and does a lot of good for the hobby.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Jeff's a pretty good guy. I like him.
Yeah.
So did you have a relationship with Jeff prior to this, or just your contacts when you heard King Snake was for sale?
Which Jeff? There's too many Jeffs.
Previous owner of King Snake, Jeff.
No, I did not know the previous owner before this. So yeah, nope. I think I just kind of got lucky having like the right background and some of those things for it too, where that, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of interesting with like a bunch of the time I spent in tech and some of those that a bunch of the things make sense. And so I can see a bunch of this of like automating different things and making a bunch of this easier for users and kind of everybody. So, yeah.
How many beaded lizards do you
own? Do we really ever keep track?
Oh, that's cool. You got a good amount.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could come down. I could count them. The thing is that I've got a group of all the different species, and so, yep. So I think
the Horridum are my favorite. I think the Horridum.
They're, you know, the Alvarezi I think are my favorite. I like the Horridums. I like the Exasperatums. I really like Gila monsters too. But the Alvarezi personality is just, it's way different.
Oh, you think they're pretty chill?
They sure seem to be. They seem to be way different. My Horridums, on the other hand, only one of my beatids will bite hooks, and it's a Horridum.
That's funny. I talked to you a bit. I think I remember is on Facebook, and I think it was Facebook because we're in the one Heloderma group, and because then you're like because like my Horridum are actually really nice. Like I found my Horridum are nicer than my Exasperatum. Like my Exasperatum are like. Because when I was buying Exasperatum, I'm like, I know the babies are definitely a lot more defensive, and they're they can be pretty reactive, and you need to work with them. And as become adults, if you work with them a lot, they settle down. And so I got these young Exasperatum, and then I got more young Exasperatum, and most of the time these things were like trying to bite me. When I got the Horridum, they were like bluffing more, and they weren't as reactive, and they weren't as defensive. So I asked Steve Angley, I was like, hey man, these Horridum like way nicer and laid back generally, you know, versus Exasperatum. He goes, yeah, I'd say so. He goes, yeah, definitely. I'm like, yeah, because I got 4 of these like just Horridum, you know, because I like them. I like the high black ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, they are. And so I got those, and I'm like, and I only had like 6 exasperatum at the time, and I got these 4 horridum, and I noticed all 4 of these horridum that weren't even worked with are all better than my exasperatum. So I was like, I don't think this is a coincidence. And he goes,
See,
yeah, they're generally nicer. And I'm like, oh shit. I was like, I should have been buying more of these because like I still like the exasperatum. I love the high yellow and the tiger bars.
yeah,
But the horridum are my favorite. I really like the high black ones. And I'm like, oh, you think they have better dispositions? And so hearing the Alvarezi are even better. That's pretty cool. I only ever held one Alvarezi. Steve brought this one big male to the show. Yep. The Alvarezi, I really like them actually when they're like really old. When they're like, well, not even real old because betas live like forever. But like a 6 or 8 year old one because they get darker and darker. So the really old ones are like almost like pitch black, and I like that. But when they're younger, they're kind of like two-tone. Their heads and tails are kind of like black, and their bodies are kind of like this purpley brown kind of dark color. But yeah, I like the Alvarezi though. Nobody really likes the price tag unless you're selling them. Then you like
it. Fair. I mean, expensive. Yeah, but they're a cool animal. It's interesting, and it's fascinating. Like your difference with the exasperatum and the horridums. Like I've got a couple of my exasperatum up here in the top that they'll literally like just scratch at the side of the thing. You can open it up, and they just want to come hang out. They'll just walk right out to come hang out with you. They're super, super chill. Whereas my horridums, all of them are way more aggressive when they eat everything. Like my exasperatum, you'll go hand them food, put it in front of them. They'll kind of like think about it for a minute, smell it for a second. They're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And casually kind of bite it and take it. Whereas the horridums, you put it in front of them, they just nail it kind of immediately and furiously want to shake it around. So
you know what? I do have my most aggressive feeder is a horridum, and it like charges me, and it stands up and it goes like this, and it is kind of terrible because this fucking thing is going like this and trying to bite everything. And I'm like, yeah, dude. I was like, that's my hand. I was like, I really don't want to get that close to this thing. I was like, my exasperatum. You are right. Like my exasperatum, I don't have that problem with a single exasperatum at all. The horridum, like most are pretty good. I have one that's kind of like that's not too bad, but I have one in particular. This thing is. I was like, oh, okay, this is bad. I was like, this thing is like became like one of my crazy feeder hog nose. Like it's associated me with food. So as soon as I open up the drawer, this thing just starts running at me. My whole body doesn't care. I was like, this thing would definitely chew on my hand, which would be, of course, extremely devastating.
Yeah. Don't do that. Take it off. Rip it off. But
yeah, it's got to tear it off immediately. That's like, I don't really want to feel the venom. Everybody that tells me about it, it's pretty much the pretty horrible horror story.
Yeah, definitely heard both. And so, I try to keep my hands away from them for sure.
Joel Reap had a funny story. A guy, he got bit by, when he told it, I was like, that sounds like a Gila. Usually when I hear people getting bit though, it's like, it's always usually Gilas. It does happen with beetles, of course.
They seem to be spicier.
The beetles will bluff strike you so much. Like I think I've already been bumped by beetles where it's like, oh man, if that was an actual bite, they would have got me. But there's been so many times where they just huff and they push you with their head, and you really seem like you have to be mostly grabbing them or getting really agitated for them to actually bite you, for the most part. But then it seems like the beetles when they do bite people, they'll let go. The Gilas, I hear people like 5 minutes, like a vice grip, they can't get them off. And then Joel Reap said he had this. Well, I don't think you want to disclose who it was, but for the person's sake. But they were bit on the finger by the Gila, and they tore it off, and it turned and bit that finger. So now they had bites on both hands they were venomated on both hands. And the guy was fine, but he said it was pretty. He did say that both hands were not. He wasn't really able to use them well for days.
I've seen a lot with swelling and different things from them as well. And so, and to your point though, like I've seen the same with my exasperatum and that where, look, I was complacent. And so I had 2 of them together and I was feeding. So like I fed the one, it had it. And then for the other one, I went to just go grab its tail and kind of pull it back that little bit to get it away from it. And in doing so, it whipped around exactly like you're saying, just that headbutt. And it was that, oh man, I was being an idiot. Thank you. Just thanks for being cool and not actually want to bite me and just reminding me. So they're a cool genus to work with.
They really are. They're, the snakes actually evolved from venomous lizards. And so beetids, I mean, I don't know their whole history of their, evolution, but I mean, they're a pretty like prehistoric looking species of reptile. And because shoot, and the fact that they're osteoderms too.
It's so sweet.
They're a really cool looking animal too. There's really nothing else that really looks like them. The closest thing to me that kind of looks like them, that reminds you, and they don't really look like them, but it reminds you of, is like and they're the other big venomous lizard, Komodo dragons, because they got those big jowls, because they have the venom glands in their lower jaw, just like the heloderma do.
Which that's one of the ones that fascinates me too, is like you talk about them being like ancient and some of that, and the venom delivery system is even fascinating, right? Like the grooves in the teeth rather than the like hypodermic needle type fangs, right? So they're fascinating creatures. Shinglebacks, I think of those guys a lot though, of like the shape of the head and some of the body structure.
Yeah, shinglebacks are pretty awesome. That's Steve Angley. He just had a baby boy.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, that's pretty cool actually. Don't see that often.
No, he has a Western shingleback
in the United
too.
States that have actually had a lot of success with shingles over the last couple of years, and there's some collections slowly being built up, 1 or 2 babies at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe in about 4 or 5 years, not that they're going to be like available, but it's not going to be like this rarity to see them. Josh, why am I saying this wrong? Did you see the one at Tinley on Josh Adler's table? Josh Adler.
Oh, Josh Adler, he had a shingleback?
Yeah, he had a shingleback on his table, a female. Long story short, first time I've ever got to hold one. Maybe the first time I've really seen one in person where there wasn't a piece of glass in between me.
Yeah, right.
I've always loved the species. Can't afford a $10,000 lizard.
Nope.
No. Well, Steve said he goes whoever he got the shinglebacks from, he goes, this guy knows what he's talking about. And Steve was like, he goes, kind of like me, it was like beateds and stuff. He goes, I learned a lot of my original propagation and breeding from Bob Applegate because he was really successful. And he goes, but a lot of people don't want to listen to me and stuff. And like, we all experienced that. Like, I'll tell people, and sometimes they'll listen to some stuff I say, and that's on them if they want to listen or what, or try to get creative. But he goes, Steve's like, I just listened to the guy got shinglebacks from, did it to a T, and yeah, within less than a year, he had one baby already produced. And he said, I can't remember what the exact secret is to get successful, consistent reproduction from them. But he says his friend, like this dude that he got him from, reproduces them very consistently. Like some of his pairs every year, he gets like 1 or 2 babies from them, like every single year. And so Steve seems pretty confident that every year he'll most likely get babies. And he said a lot of times they have 2. This one time, this time he only had 1. But I'm like, oh, that's pretty neat that people are, actually, finding the formula to consistently propagate them, because they don't have many babies and you're not getting any new ones in. So that is very crucial to start getting these things to reproduce. And it's kind of cool too, because they'll always be like $10,000, because there's never going to be enough produced where there's going to be a market crash.
Yeah. Well,
in the early stages too, there was a lot of people that thought they bonded for life and you only could breed like pairs that were raised together. A lot of these breeders now are realizing that's not the case, but like you said, there is some tricks to it also, but it's not as tricky as we used to think it was going to be.
No, that's what Steve says. He goes, it's really not that tricky. And he says you leave the baby with the parents too. And so he has pictures of the baby eating food with the mom. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I can't remember exactly what he said. But he says it's like, he says it's really not that hard to breed them. He just follows this dude's advice to the T. And yeah, I won't say like, he was telling me that like they don't actually, you don't have to have bonded pairs like they say. I don't know. I can't remember if it's like, it's kind of like a lot of species, it's like, that's the one formula, Dave, that you and I like, seen happen over like, what's the, like nobody could breed a Boland's python. And it's like, what's the secret to this? The secret is like more males. Green anacondas, they're hard to breed. Sometimes people have a hard time getting green anacondas to reproduce. But if you ever see them like on Animal Planet or any videos of them breeding in the wild, there's always like a breeding ball at mass. There's usually like 5 or 7 males on a female. So people start using multiple males on a female. It's like, okay, now they're having successful litters. A lot of it is just having, a lot of males. I don't think that's the case with the shingleback though, quite, because I know I know Steve just has 1 pair. That's it. And yeah, they weren't like bonded or anything like that from what I remember. Like, I don't know if you have to keep them together for. I'll have to ask them how they, like, what's the main thing. But it didn't sound like that crazy. It didn't sound like it was that involved or anything, you know, that is very difficult to do.
And that's like kind of been the great thing about all the different forums and all the different groups, right? Is like allowing people to connect and share some of the different info and tips and tricks on that. And that's one of the things that I think is cool about like the reptile community compared to other communities, and that is that people do share that information. Like Steve's a great example of that. Like that guy has been a fantastic mentor. The amount of stuff he's like shared and taught me about beadeds and all and heloderma generally. I mean, like it's super, and I watch him do it for other people too. You know, like there's just amazing people within the hobby that share incredible information with each other that all benefits the animals. Like it, I was talking to somebody recently, like it's fascinating now with ball pythons. You've got 80-90% chance that that animal is going to eat a whole lot better and be fine and thrive. If we rewind, 25, 30 years, like the 90s, early 2000s, it was pretty much the opposite, right? Like it's 70-80% chance that it wasn't going to eat and was going to be a big pain in the butt.
Yeah, I think like people back then weren't as forthcoming with information, and then also there weren't wasn't like the most like techniques like, for certain species were discovered yet or perfected.
Yeah.
Like even like when I got Plains hognose at first, there was like people had techniques and methods, but it was a lot smaller versus what there is now. Now we have like a broader range. Like, oh, you could also do this, and this. And this is what we've discovered. This actually helps, get hognose to eat. This is another technique versus like when I was a kid, they were like, put them in a paper bag with some like live pinky mice, sent with tuna, sent with the frog or toad, and bring the mouse. And like, that was it,
Yep. Braining mice and stuff, and some of these are ones like those are still tips that work. It's kind of a crazy thing, right? But it's interesting. Some of those are forgotten.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Heloderma. We talked about heloderma. We talked about boas. We got the king snake stuff got covered. Talked about, pack NWRS.
Yeah.
So
we can talk about whatever we want.
Were there any questions in the comments? Is there anybody even out there listening right now?
There's a lot of comments. Not too many questions. We have 30 people here listening right now, currently. Cindy seems like, is she a friend of yours, John?
Cindy is the face of King Snake.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. Okay, yeah, it seemed like she was involved in King Snake based because she was saying stuff about the reptile shows. She mentioned Sewer Fest. She was talking about what did she say? I already forgot it, but I remember reading it. Something about legal and King Snake being will comply with subpoenas. Yeah, when she said that, I'm like, okay, she's does something here with King Snake.
Yeah, she's been the site coordinator and stuff and involved with King Snake for 20 plus years. And so
she says, yeah, our classifies a lot. Yeah, so yeah, okay, Cindy.
Yeah, I'm very thankful that Cindy's going to stay. That she's staying around with King Snake and stuff, and so a ton of people still know her and associate her with it, and so I'm very thankful that she and then many people that behind the scenes are also staying on with it, and so we're poised to be able to take on what you guys need and make the changes. We got to put those ones together, figure out the roadmap, right, to put them together, and so we're very thankful, and it's been wonderful to see all the people coming back now. The classified's already starting to get more stuff in there. And yeah, exactly as Cindy says, we're about the community. This is what it's for. And so that's where I'm very thankful to have been able to have preserved it and kept it alive, right? Like that's what we'll do. We'll make some updates so it is better for now, right? But in the short term, enjoy some of the nostalgia, some of the simplicity of it. Kind of like you said, what gems can you find in the photo galleries?
There's like, that's what I'm very interested in is like conversations and even pictures from like 20, 25 years ago. Because you're like, oh, do you remember this? Or this person had this locale or they had this. That'd be pretty cool. So thank you, Cindy, for keeping this together.
Seriously. She's still been doing the photo of the day and everything. And cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we're still active. The fascinating thing too has been advertisers. coming back and wanting to talk to us as well and be part of it. And so then starting to look at some of the traffic and stuff on the site, there's a lot. And so the people that are starting to post animals and stuff now, like you're smart, because you're kind of the only one that's being seen at this point, as everybody's going there. And so, it's neat to see.
Yeah. So right now is a good time to actually like start kingsnake.com classifieds, guys, because it's not overpopulated.
No,
Go on Morph Market, there's like 2,000 corn snakes. If you go on King Snake, there's probably not many. So, and some of these people too, like there's definitely those people that like the, old school stuff. Like they only shop King Snake and like fauna because they don't want to deal with like an app and stuff. Like, I mean, I get it. There's so much shit, but I mean, the apps are good. So that'd be cool to have King Snake as that.
Well, and I think we need both. Right. And I see some ways to do both. Right. And so, the truth is, though, like just mobile friendly is kind of the first step, and making some updates and stuff there. I want to streamline some of those and make some updates, and, it's possible.
Oh,
cool thing. Yeah. Crazy. Right.
Cindy's been there for 28 years.
Man.
So again, big shout out to Cindy. And she's actually just asked Cindy, like, do you remember? Just think from 25 years ago what happened, and then just go and find that.
No, well, it's been cool of like helping people recover their accounts and stuff. And so you log into some of these vendor accounts, and they've been a King Snake member for 23 years, since 2002, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So Cindy has been huge at helping people get back into their accounts and that as well. So we'll help you guys get back to your stuff and bring back the good old days.
Yeah, that's the first geckos we sold online. My dad and I it was on kingsnake.com in like 2001 or 2002.
The amount that I've heard similar from so many different people of like, oh, the first trio of rosy boas I got was off of kingsnake.com, and like same thing. The amount that I learned I could never afford any Gila monsters or beateds back in those days for sure, but the amount that I learned about them and everything back through King Snake is immeasurable.
So that was actually something I was going to ask earlier about old accounts. So people can still access their old account on there, or we don't have to start over brand new?
You do not need to start over brand new. You can access your old account. Just send Cindy or I a note, get in touch with us, and we'll help you get back into it. Please have some idea of what your username or email address was, right? And we'll help you find them and get into them. The biggest thing that people will see is that look, again, on those things I know we need to fix, right? Like currently you're going to register for King Snake. You have to register for the forums. You have to register for the classified accounts. So bear with me. Right. And so you got a couple of those little check boxes to go through and double check your spam, so you actually confirm your accounts. And then for the classifieds, if you get into your old account and then register for the classifieds, it's going to take you like an hour, and you should be able to post into them. If you register a new account and then register for the classified, it's going to be somewhere between 8 and 72 hours before you can get in there.
Okay. So do you encourage people to go to their old accounts or start over fresh?
Yeah, man, go to your old account. Like, why not?
Your old account. Yeah, I say big time. Actually, I'm kind of. I wonder if there's any way to find my dad and I's original posts, like our first gecko sale on there. I don't know if that's cataloged at all. That'd be interesting to see what our first post or sale was.
I think we can find it. We'll check.
That'd be cool. Yeah, it's just James G. Reptile, and we had a leopard gecko skin background. It just said James G. Reptile. I think we made a seller account 2001, 2002, and then we only paid for a few months, and then it expired. And then in 2003, when we had more stuff available, that's when we we had a King Snake account from 2003 until we still have one, but for a while, you had to pay for the classifieds, and I paid for the classifieds up until I was 29 years old, because my dad and I, we bred geckos. We had our collection together up until about 14 years ago. And, he had his corn snakes and stuff, and that was his own thing. And I had my hoggos, and that was my own thing. And, but we stopped breeding gecko. Well, I kept some of them. I kept some of those projects going. But anyway, it'd be really cool to see, what our original post was. I remember our first big sale was on King Snake. I remember we sold a tangerine Tremper albino leopard gecko. and it was just on like a stone background. We had this big gray
Yeah,
slab of stone.
I couldn't
yeah.
I couldn't not look. And so I looked real quick and I did
Cool.
find your old account of JMG Reptiles. It's in there. Give me a shout. I'll help you get in there if you can't. And
yeah,
then,
I'd like to see that.
Dude, it's cool. It says from 2004, man. So it's
Okay.
21 years. And then
okay,
just
so it's 2004. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Chick-fil-A, like, we'll be at the Reptile Super Show in January, and I am very hopeful to have t-shirts. So come see me and come get a t-shirt.
Chick-fil-A, you're going to need a second shirt. Also, I like your food. Every now and then I get a Chick-fil-A sandwich, so appreciate that.
Yeah,
you can come out to the Super Show on Sunday since you guys are closed. You're not open those hours, so you can come out and hang out all day Sunday at the Super Show.
There you go.
You get your updated kingsnake.com t-shirt.
Got 'em.
So that's the one cool thing is keeping the t-shirts too, because I have some like t-shirts that are like 20 years old from Reptile shows. Like I have a 2003 NARBC Tinley show t-shirt, and I have a Noah Reptile t-shirt that is from like right around 2000.
Oh, all the more reason if that comment's accurate. Yeah, swing through. Well, and so to your point about like some of those vintage classic shirts and such, our photo of the day contest that we're about to release, we might have some vintage classic t-shirts that will be given away. So more to come on that one.
That'd be awesome.
So this is Jeff, the carnivorous plants guy. Carnivorous plants are cool.
Yeah, they are.
There's actually a lot of cool plants in the Pack and WRS shows. I always felt like
they
that.
Really are.
Yeah, Chris, he I like it's funny talking to these people because like since I don't know anything about them, it's like I didn't know you could keep like Venus flytraps like outside in like Seattle. And he goes, oh yeah, they actually kind of like it cold. And he goes, they can't really get below 20 degrees much. I was like, you can get these things down to like 30 degrees. He goes, yeah, that's fine. He goes, they do better actually up here. He's like, you can keep them outside. I'm like, that's insane. Because like I'm used to like the Little Shop of Horror movies, you know, and that's like all I know about Venus flytraps is like that, and they basically you think they come from the hot jungle, but that's actually not true.
The Jeff that commented, I wondered if it was the same local one. Like he's got phenomenal plants. His are gorgeous, and he was super helpful to teach me and anybody else about them.
Yeah. He says
wild in North Carolina.
What, Venus flytraps?
Oh yeah,
they live in North Carolina.
They could be invasive, but they're there.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Again, the only thing I know about Venus flytraps is like what you guys like. What I've learned recently, but before that, it was just Little Shop of Horrors. Was like the only thing I knew. It was just that movie about the horror film of the Venus flytrap that sucked the guy's like blood, and then he started feeding it human body parts. I mean, obviously, you're not getting any information from there, so that's what I'm trying to.
Do you think we could
show? I know nothing.
Now, we talked earlier about like 20 years from now, selective breeding. Somebody needs to selectively breed giant Venus flytraps that can eat humans. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah, it's gonna like collapse under its own weight.
Right.
Keep it in like some like oxygenated chamber. It's got like those giant pumpkins. The hardest part about growing to giant pumpkins is like they don't implode on themselves from their own weight.
Right.
That's they're all deformed. Like some guy just grew a giant pumpkin as like 1,000 pounds, or it's like bigger. It's like so big, and it was like won an award because it wasn't all deformed and fucked up. He did a really good job because normally they're the just the gravity kind of makes them all like weird. They're all like flat on one side.
I wonder if you move them every day just a little bit, just constantly roll it the whole way through.
Maybe. I don't know. Big pumpkins are cool. I always like seeing them. It was very fascinating as a child around Halloween. But, the thing's just going to end up rotting. So, trying to get your dad to buy the $200 pumpkin, he never did it. I was like, you buy that thing? I think it was huge, like 400 pounds, like $200. But I was like, I'm not buying that ever.
Well, question, John, because I think we're going to wrap this up in a couple minutes because we keep it around 2 hours. So, I know you're going to want some feedback from this podcast. Anybody who tunes in after the live is going to want to have some questions. Do you want people to go to the Facebook page for King Snake and send stuff in? Like, how do you want people to communicate with you? Like, give you ideas, kind of let you know what they think the community needs.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you for that. I think both. Yeah. Really, anywhere you want to send us feedback, we can get there. The kingsnake.com in the general forum section, there is a thread about feedback for the site. And so that would probably be my absolute preference so that we can have a good discussion there and everything too. However, yeah, wherever you want to send us feedback, you can send it through Facebook, you can send it through any of them. You can find me on King Snake, whatever you want to do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's a good idea, everybody. If you have some good ideas or things you'd like out of kingsnake.com, let them know.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, constructive criticism and everything is always very helpful, and just like ideas and things you'd like to see happen with the website. And I think you're on a good track with everything, John. So cool acquisition. Look forward to see what you do with it. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me here to talk about it. I very much appreciated the excitement and the feedback from the community and stuff. I really do feel like King Snake was one of those pillars for so many of us. I mean, like you guys, included, as you said, right? And so for us to be able to maintain that for the community and then still provide some of those updates that provides pieces that we need, this is the goal. This is what we will accomplish with it. And so I'm excited for the future. I'm thankful for all of you that have already signed up and started to use it. And so this is part of the reason too, as to why to give back to everybody and to thank them is we will make the enhanced classifieds free here for at least the rest of November. So please get in there, sign up, utilize those. After we've been utilizing that, that's one where we're going to want some feedback. What are some of the good pieces of that you liked? What are some of the pieces that didn't work so well? And so, yeah, I'm sure we'll mess up some, but also I hope we can make some good changes here relatively quick too. Like I kind of feel like if we can change the thread system here, kind of back to where you click into one topic and then you kind of got everything there, that might be really beneficial and helpful right out of the gate. Right. So yeah, or let's just maybe fix the mobile side. So stay with us, keep checking the site. It's kind of fun hearing people like, oh, I'm putting it back to my homepage. You know what? Me too. It's kind of fun to bring that back that way. So yeah, please use the site, post up some animals, find some good animals from other people, connect with people, and have a good time. Create some good discussions.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you guys can see us. John Poff will be there. Kingsnake.com, his booth will be at the Reptile Super Show, and that's January 10th and 11th in Pomona. It's an awesome show. There's so many cool animals there and awesome people to meet. So it's a really good. It's one of the shows I say it's like a must see. If you have like a bucket list of reptile shows to go to or expos. Let's say if you live like in Maine, you're like forever away. If there is an expo, I'd say it's a must see. If you come out to meet people and also just see a large array of different species. Reptile Super Show's very top contender. It's one of the best expos. Rami does an awesome job running it. John's going to be there. I'll be there. Dave, are you going to be at the Pomona this time?
Maybe.
Dave's always a wild card. He might be there too. So we'll see if he's going to be there. Sometimes Dave's there. Last time he was. Sometimes he's just basically going. Sometimes you're going to spectator mode. Sometimes he's just out in the crowd. It's kind of like Emily from Snake Discovery. Maybe you spot him, maybe you don't. It's like, where's Waldo?
Keep an eye. Maybe I'll be there. It's a good time of the year.
It is. Yeah, it's a nice time, too, if you live in Ohio like me, to get away from that fucking weather. It's never good in January. Well, sometimes it's okay, but it's very rare. It's very, very rare. That's good. Thanks, everybody, for joining. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Let's come hang out. Thanks again to John.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys.
All right. And